Um, Great. We're so excited to be kicking off our Passover cooking series with Susan Barocas, who is one of our beloved contributors and teachers who joined us for many holidays to share recipes and her expertise in Sephardi Jewish cuisine. So tonight she's going to be sharing two recipes with us. I'll share the recipes in the chat for everybody. Just a couple of reminders, which is that we're here to learn from Susan. So I always start our classes by asking respectfully if we can let Susan get through the recipe. She will definitely answer as many replacements questions as she can. But again, like just to ask that we please try and let Susan get through her teaching. And then the other thing I would just say is that questions can all get put into the chat. We'll try to get to as many of them as possible. If they're relevant to share during while Susan's teaching, I'll try to field them to her. And if not, there'll be plenty of time as we pause in between the dishes and at the end to ask all of the questions. I just want to share a little bit about Susan's bio, other than my own admiration for her. She's a writer, a cook, a speaker, and truly an expertise in Sephardic dishes. She was served as a guest chef for 3 seders at the Obama White House, and she served as the founding director of the Jewish Food Experience in DC. I first met her at the Hazon Food Conference. I don't even know how many years ago. I think it was 2 children ago.
Yes, you only had one. She came.
Keep that tongue in your mouth. I only had 1 kid at the time. So it's my very sincere pleasure and honor to hand it over to you, and I will do my best to keep fielding the questions that I can to you. Thank you so much, Susan. I will shut up now.
Thank you, Shannon. I'm really happy to be here. Hello, everyone. Hopefully you're taking deep breaths and not getting too freaked out because it's, should I say, not too long before Passover. First Seder's like what, 2 weeks from tomorrow night? But part of the whole thing about Passover food, I think that people get crazy thinking that everything has to always be special dishes. And yes, they do, but they don't all have to have matzah or matzah meal, whatever. Fresh and healthy food, seasonal spring food is great during Passover. That said, there are some things that are nice to fix that are really for Passover. One of them among Sephardim is an almadrote. Now, if you look at the article that I wrote, you'll see that almadrote is only one of the words for this dish. The dish itself is an egg and vegetable dish, a casserole really, and often has cheese added. And I'm going to fill you in on more history, but I really want to get cooking very quickly. And we'll talk about all the names of it too, but I want to get it in the oven quickly so you can see it finished before the end of class. So we're going to start cooking it. I have 3 eggs I beat lightly here. And I'm just going to quickly show you, some people really find it tedious to chop herbs. And I have a whole thing about it that I really just bunch it. I might bunch less, but I just bunch it. Well, this is coming to a point. So let's do a part of it. Here, we'll just do this part. This is the
I find that chopping herbs and vegetables is almost like therapeutic. It's like enjoyable.
I find it too. And also there's a way to do it that really helps, which is bunch up whatever you're doing. Let's say I'm going to do this much to get my quarter cup. Okay. And all I do is I really bunch it up, and I don't worry about stems because only the thick stems do I remove and put them out aside in my veggie scrap bag for broth. But just as you have them bunched together, don't do a big chop, but if you want it chopped small or whatever size you want it, do it that way to begin with. So I just want to show you, like, just already first pass is that size, okay, which is actually perfect for this dish. So I'm just gonna, I left these, I have everything else chopped, but I wanted you to see this little trick. And I also wanted to talk about keeping those stems on. Actually, the stems have more vitamins and minerals than the leaves. Keep those, and if you are familiar with Persian cooking, you know that that is also a cuisine that uses the stems. And okay, there we go. We're gonna set that aside. Actually, you know what? I'm just gonna put it right in here for a minute with my dill. Okay. And the other thing I wanted to talk to you real quickly about the herb, you know, people have herbs that don't last in the refrigerator. And I've tried a lot of different methods. If I know I'm going to use any herbs quickly, like in a couple days, I will put them in a jar of water. And sometimes by the sink, especially if it's basil, which does not like the refrigerator, or else I will, my favorite thing, I bring them home, I wash them, I shake them so they're a little dry, and I wrap them in these wonderful flour cloth towels that are so cheap. You can get them for like $1 each online, or at IKEA has them always. These are the best. Wrap it, pop this like this in a plastic bag. Just so you know, it's been a week that these herbs, like this parsley was put in there a week ago, this way. And it still looks really good. And it can stay, I've had them last 3 weeks this way. So that is just a little tip I wanted to give you all.
And that seems like it would last longer than paper towel. I find that when I do that, when I wrap my herbs with the paper towel, it absorbs a lot of the water or something. It seems like that lasted a lot longer.
Yeah, the paper towel is the other way to go. And that's fine too, that works. I actually have 2 bags, and one of them has paper towel, one of them has this. So that's a good idea too. All right, let's make, this is like, almost like dump bowl cooking. It's just so easy to make these casseroles. The 3 eggs are here. I don't even use a recipe usually, so I always have to look. And we'll add the dill and all that in a moment. First, I'm gonna add a couple of tablespoons, yes, of matzo meal. Broke out the matzo meal for tonight. Okay, I'm gonna add the pepper. I'm not gonna add salt, and I'll tell you, because I've salted the zucchini and it's been draining. I'm gonna wait and not add the salt. I usually don't even need it, because by the time you have the salted zucchini and you have feta and you have another cheese, usually that is plenty salty. And if not, you can always sprinkle salt afterwards. Okay, so just a little bit of pepper. All right. Now I'm gonna mix those while this is like starts to become really where we just dump things in here. That was the feta, about 2/3 cup. And I'm gonna just start right here by saying, make these recipes your own. The truth is, you could put no cheese at all. You could put more cheese. You could put different kinds of cheese. You know, it's really whatever you like. All right, so there we go. And the herbs are in. Okay. And you can make this eggier if you like. It's very interesting because some people, and even some Sephardi, call these frittatas instead of the other names. In Ladino, the frittata is in Italian, in Ladino, in a lot of different languages actually have forms of that word. Frittata usually has more egg to vegetable ratio. You can see this is very low egg to vegetable ratio. Now, I'm going to switch, and I'm going to show you what has happened to my 5 cups of zucchini. And that's about 3 pounds. Yeah, you don't have to be exact. I wouldn't say to go under, it'd be better to go a teeny bit over. And for me, today, it was a large, because I didn't have I bought 1 large and 2 kind of largish to medium, and they made 5 cups easily. And it was about 3 pounds. And that was the plate that I just took off. I salted these before the class started. And because salting brings out the moisture. If you want to have some nice onion in a salad, throw some salt on it in a strainer, set it aside while you make the rest of the salad. and then rinse the onions, and they will have that bite taken off of them. Anytime you want to remove moisture or soften the taste, okay, you can salt. Now, I want to show you before I start squeezing what this does exactly. Look at this. All that moisture just drained out, just sitting there. Do not throw this out, however. This is great to add to stews, broths, whatever you need a liquid for. You can cook rice in it or quinoa. That all works great. Or any other grain. And all you're going to do, because it's not quite enough, even though we had it, is you're just going to start to squeeze. And look how much is still coming out. It's quite amazing. You're just going to squeeze as much moisture as you can because you do not want a soggy almidrote. And while we're doing this, I'm going to tell you about some of these other names for this dish. So this dish is also called quajado, which can be spelled Quajado, Cuajado, Kua, can be with a K, a C, or a Q. Okay, why? Well, when Ladino was spoken, the Old Spanish of the Sephardic Jews, and even when it got mixed with other languages, like Turkish and Greek and Arabic, there was no QU yet. This didn't exist. It had a C, so a lot of the Spanish recipes will put it with a C. But in Turkey, there is no hard C. So when the Jews got the Ottoman Empire, they used a K to get the K sound. So like my Turkish relatives, their name is Barokas. Same reason. So quajado means coagulated. And that refers to how the eggs pull everything together and it gets coagulated. It's also called sfongado or asfongado, spongy. And it can also be called a frittata. And all right, we're almost there. This is a dish. All of these dishes, whatever you want to call them, all come from the Jews of Spain, who were making them for hundreds of years. And it was so identified as being one of the foods of the Jews of Spain that we know an awful lot about quajado because of Inquisition testimony. This quajado appears very, very often in the testimony. It was damning evidence that if you made a quajado, okay, you were Jewish. Not to mention if you used leek or onion or garlic or eggplant. In truth, there were more laws about food in the Inquisition decree in 1478, those that codified what was already starting to happen, the Inquisition, but it put it into law. There were more laws about food relating to or being banned as opposed to religious practice even, because food was so important to the Jews of Spain. Okay, moving to the next, let me just dry this real fast. Okay, now we just mix everything up. It's all in here. And before I do that, I have my pan. And what I want to do is I have 2 tablespoons of oil in there. You might say, oh, that's a lot. But you put it in the warm oven. And what it will do is it'll start to heat up so that when this mixture hits the pan, it will help form a beautiful crust. It helps make that really wonderful crustiness. So we're going to give it a moment to do that while I'm mixing this.
Susan, that's so interesting because that's how my husband makes his potato kugel that he learned from his grandma, by heating up the oil and putting it in the pan while he's doing everything else so that it gets crispy on the outside also. I love that it's similar.
Exactly. I know. And potato kugel, quajado, they're all kind of the kind of food that is perfect for crowds and perfect for holidays too. Also, they're great because at least these vegetable quajados, almidrotes, they can be made ahead of time, and they don't have to be heated up. They can be heated up. They can be served, most often they're served at room temperature. And they also make great appetizers. So you could cut them up small in little squares or whatever shape you want and put them on an appetizing platter. And they work really, really well at all those temperatures. All right, here we go. This is done. It's mixed, and I know everybody talks about not tasting with raw egg, but I always do. I'm just gonna taste a little for salt. Good. I love it. I often will put more herbs in too, by the way, which starts to take it over into the world of kuku sabzi, the Persian, like herby, eggy dish, which is very appropriate to talk about because today is the Persian New Year, Nowruz. But that, it has a lot more herbs in the Persian version, but it's also very similar too. One of the things
I was curious, Susan, is it also have a connection to like Syrian gibbon?
Yes, they're similar, as far as I know. I have not made the Syrian version. Have you?
Yeah, I have a close friend who Syrian, and she taught me how to make it, and my family loved it so much that we make it all the time because for all the reasons you just shared, could make it ahead, serve at room temperature.
Right. I know, and on holidays, it's always like, oh my God, how am I going to get everything heated up in the oven? Well, here's a dish you don't have to worry about. So what do you put in yours?
Cottage cheese, Munster cheese, spinach, sometimes like sauteed onions, but sometimes not, and eggs. That's it. And then like bacon in like a square pan. Yeah.
It's so similar, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll double this recipe and put it into a large 9x13 pan, and it'll be a little bit thicker, but it's, nice, quick, easy way to double it. And by the way, adding sauteed onions, also a lot of people will do that. And I just want to get this hot, but I want to get it in. Okay, I think it's hot enough, as they say. So let's see if we hear the sizzle, or if I was too quick on the draw. You hear it? I hear a sizzle. I love that. It just means this beautiful crust is going to get made. And look, you can add in this pan, this makes a thin almidrote, okay? What you can do is add more zucchini and another egg and more herbs without even doubling the recipe if you like it thicker. I like it like this because it has a certain crispiness. And what you want to do when you get it all in is pat it so it's smooth, okay? We're going to let me get rid of this. All right, so notice I'm not touching the pan. It is hot, I can feel it. But you want to pat it so it's smooth. And then what I do to help the crust on top form is I add a little brushing of olive oil. And that's all in the recipe. But I just, the other thing, if I had any, but I ran out, is I would just spray it with some spray oil. That's a really quick way to do this. This is just a tablespoon of oil, quickly brushed. There's no oil in this recipe other than what it's cooked in. So it's the brushing and it's what's in the pan. And by the way, I meant to also say, Shauna, that cottage cheese is so interesting. I have to find, I don't know exactly what was comparable to it, like in the Ottoman Empire. I haven't found that out yet. And I don't know if there is one because it's not like a pot cheese or a farmer cheese.
Yeah. I've always wondered about the Syrian community also. It feels like a lot of the dishes that at least I've learned about through my friends use ingredients that they found, that were readily available in the US. And I think that was things like Munster cheese, right? I think there must have been a Syrian equivalent for them. But when they got here, this was what they kind of use. The same goes for when I've learned to make sambusak from my friend, she uses a tortilla press, right?
Mm.
And I just like love that, right? Like, you know, an immigrant community comes here and they use ingredients and tools that other immigrant communities brought here, and kind of is like a new iteration. But you're right. I do wonder what that cheese was that they used.
You know, wherever Jews have traveled, as you know, they we adapted the food that we found there, the ingredients, and we adapted it to being kosher. We adapted it to using, or adopted and adapted both to Jewish holidays and Shabbat, and to what we could afford, depending on our socioeconomic. But what that means is that quajado, it's a recipe that, or almodrote, it's not so different from how it used to be made, but it can be different. And that's also something very interesting, is as we go through, we can figure out what do we like now in this dish. And I wanted to mention that this is the kind of dish, because people are going to say, well, what else can I use? What else can I put in there? So you can use leftover vegetables, first of all. Let's just say it's a great clean out the refrigerator dish. Also, traditionally in Spain, the most popular was eggplant, roast eggplant, mash it up, put it in with the eggs. I make a leek and potato one. Now, potatoes came to Spain from the New World in the 1500s. It was one of the first places that the New World crops of tomatoes and potatoes and corn landed, was in Spain with the conquistadores. And this was in the 1500s. So I like making this one that, and sometimes I put carrots too, but it's leek, which is what was used way back in Spain before we got thrown out. But then you have potatoes were added by conversos, who were secret Jews who stayed in Spain. So they were there when the potato got there, before it traveled across Europe. So you can also use any green leafy. I love either chard or spinach, both delicious. And again, you can use combinations, or you can just keep it pure. Tonight, I decided to give you kind of a blank palette, and you can make it your own now. Go from there. Same thing with this salad. So let's make a little carrot salad. We've got the timers on, the almodrotes in the oven. And so this carrot salad is really fun, because I started out years ago making it with canned carrots. I mean, that's many years ago. But when I first learned this salad, that's how it was made by the person who taught me. So I used canned carrots. I did not like canned carrots, so that did not last really long. I started, of course, to then cooking my own carrots. Usually I would slice corns, because that's traditional, like at Rosh Hashanah, you know, how carrots among both Sephardim and Ashkenazim, the coins for prosperity, the round shape. So I would make mine cooked. Then several years ago, I just decided to try it raw. I have no idea why, except that it sounded really good, and it sounded quick and easy and crunchy and yummy, and it is. So, and then of course, you go to Israel. What do you see? Like every breakfast buffet, that orange Moroccan carrot salad pops out at you, right? So I really, this is just a salad that to me is a blank palette. As I said, you can add, for instance, when you're done, you could crumble some feta cheese and make it into more of its own dish. You could mix it with some chickpeas. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff you can do with this. So making these kinds of dishes and knowing that you can make it with what you have in your refrigerator is terrific. And by the way, I have also, during the pandemic, when we had to get creative because we couldn't all get everything we wanted, I was supposed to teach a class making this salad, and I couldn't get carrots delivered, but I had a butternut squash. I grated a raw butternut squash and made this salad out of it, and it was delicious. So that's another option. And also, it's very good if you make it with something like grated zucchini, but just know that it won't last, won't have the staying power of the hard carrot or the hard squash, the butternut squash. This salad will last several days in the fridge. Again, a wonderful make ahead. Great to have around at holidays like Passover, when there's always people who are hungry and thinking, I can't eat another piece of matzah, really. All right, so here we go. This salad, the dressing in this salad is called a tremula or charmula, either way. And this is a very typical Moroccan and North African. It's a green sauce or a marinade too. So the basic ingredients are lemon, olive oil, garlic, parsley, and or cilantro, warm spices like cumin, coriander, and often some hot spice like chili, or what I use is Aleppo pepper, my favorite hot spicy ingredient. If any of you have never used it, it's terrific because it's got some heat, but also flavor with that heat, and the heat won't blow you away. Okay, I've got all my wonderful spices lined up. And just to give you a sense of this, what I had mentioned, 5 or 6 carrots, I used 6 to get this, and they were this size. I just wanted you to be able to see
I'm going to refrain from commenting on the size of your carrots, but we did have a great question, which was, would you recommend making this salad a day ahead of time to let the flavors marinate?
Yes, and in fact, in the recipe, it even suggests, it says you need to make it an hour or 2 ahead of time minimum, but day ahead is better. Yes, absolutely.
And about how much would you say the recipe feeds? Like how many servings would?
It depends. If you're having this as part of a whole lot of food, most people take like this. So you're going to get 6, 8 out of this easily. But if you're going to serve it for lunch, maybe put it on a bed of arugula with some feta crumbled over it. You might get, so it would make 4 nice servings.
That's super helpful. Thank you. I feel like that would be so nice with a little piece of salmon for lunch. Yum.
I have done that. Leftover salmon, because I often make salmon for like Shabbat and stuff. And this salad, so good. By the way, if you're doing mezes, any of you want to do like mezes for a party, before a big dinner, whatever, this carrot salad is a great meze. And I have actually stuffed it into cucumber cup to be able, and the other thing I've done with is another one of my favorite carriers. I have 2. One is cucumber cup, where you just take a melon baller and scoop out the seeds, leave a little on bottom and fill it with whatever. Smoked trout, smoked salmon, carrot salad, whatever you want, hummus, any of the, a million things, muhammada, or the same thing, but use endive leaves. Endive leaves make a great carrier. And it's just a beautiful platter with either one, the cucumber cups or the endive leaves. And this carrot salad works really well for that too. Okay.
I love the idea of those cucumber cups. All right, last question from somebody. Were these carrots grated by hand or in a food processor?
Oh, I did food processor tonight. I have grated, it's only 6 carrots or 5 carrots, whatever you're doing. It's not hard to grate. One of the reasons I like to shred on the fine shredding disc of my Cuisinart is that it's a little finer than if I grate them by hand. And I like this size a lot, but I have often done it by hand for many years. I've done it by hand. Also the zucchini as well. I did in the food processor on the fine disc, but they can be done by hand just as easily. Those box graters are around a long time for a reason. All right. So we're just going to go ahead and make our tremula, our dressing. And so in here, I have 1/3 cup of lemon juice. And I happen to have had 2, they weren't really large, but nice sized lemons. Oh, I have one. No. By the way, that noise you're hearing is my cat at my feet who is complaining because she's being ignored. So just ignore her. Just keep ignoring her. So I had 2 nice sized lemons. Oh, here. So they were actually about like this, a little bigger. Very, very juicy. So I was able to get all of the juice and more from them of what I need for this recipe. And I was able to also get the zest I need. So that's from the 2 nice juicy lemons. And this is my 1/3 of a cup of olive oil. Now I have all these lovely spices, which is so much fun. Okay, first actually I have my garlic. And I like to grate my garlic on a mandolin, or not a mandolin, the
Microplane.
thank you, microplane, on a microplane. But I also crush it sometimes in a press. So either way is fine. Because this is a quick salad, I don't do the mince it, salt it, take the knife. This is something I want done quickly. All right. Then I have paprika. And you have all the measurements exactly. I think it's a 1/2 teaspoon. You have the measurements on the recipe. A teaspoon of cumin. Okay. And this is what did I choose to put in here? Coriander. This is coriander, which smells so lovely. It almost gives it a slightly floral scent. I love it. All right, and this, I'm just gonna stir these real quick, whisk them up a little. Now, this is my zest, which is 3 teaspoons of zest. You can add more, you can add less. And by the way, don't ever juice any citrus without zesting, because that zest can be kept in the freezer or your refrigerator. And if you keep it in the freezer, it stays a long time. So anytime you want to perk up a dish or you need lemon zest, you have it at the ready. I have some in my freezer right now. Okay, all I have to add is the salt and pepper. And I think today I'm in the mood to make it a little spicy. So I'm gonna add, I guess that's about 1/8 of a teaspoon maybe of Aleppo pepper. Okay. And we're adding.
Susan, we have a couple questions about spices. So if you don't like those spices, what can you substitute it with? The other question is,
If you don't like these spices, I suggest seriously don't make this salad. Make another salad. Maybe do you like garlic? If you like garlic, use you can also go the route of cinnamon and kind of a sweet savory, but it's not going to be a tremula. It's not going to be this salad. But you certainly can use you can use lemon, garlic, cinnamon, salt, and pepper for a very simple version. I'm trying to think. Because you can substitute, like this is all cilantro, because I love cilantro. But a lot of people don't. You can use just parsley, or you can mix parsley and cilantro. But that is a substitution you can make and still be basically making this salad. I don't know, Shannon, do you have ideas? It really becomes a different carrot salad then.
yeah, I would say go to Google and look up a carrot salad and find flavor profile that you like. Somebody else asked if smoked paprika would be too strong or overwhelming for the dressing.
If you're going to use it, which I think is an interesting idea, I would be very cautious. Use very little. And just to kind of give it a little bit of a taste, because otherwise you're right, it will really overwhelm. I find that smoked paprika overwhelms very easily. So you have to hold back and add it slowly. So add a little, mix it up, taste it, see what you think, add more if you think it warrants it. But that's an interesting take on this. Any others?
Susan? No, that's it for now. Thank you so much. My daughter shouted, "No pepper!" She doesn't like pepper, but
keep asking those questions. All right. I love it. And also, if people have ideas that they want to share, like anything that they make that might be similar to these 2 recipes, I think it's really interesting to share that in the chat. So here's where I said, before I put in my herbs, I'm going to actually taste what I have here. By the way, I should warn you, you might want to add more lemon juice, more olive oil, because it's very lemony, my proportions, because I like it that way. So that's how I made it. This is going to be really lovely tomorrow after it sits overnight. There's a certain taste that I had, you know, when I first went to Morocco. I really found it on a lot of food. And that was probably about 10 years ago. A lot of food had this beautiful taste. All right. So I switched to a spoon once I add the herbs because, you know, it just doesn't work with a whisk so well. Okay. We're just about done here. It's pretty quick. All right. Put this on. Also, this is a great recipe, you know, to make a big batch. If you're having 20 people, this is a really, you could double or triple this, depending on how much other food you have. You know, that relates to what you were asking me about. How many does this serve? Again, if I'm having a seder, for instance, and I make so many dishes, I don't need to make as much of this. Okay, you just have to mix this all up. This is not a huge amount of dressing, but what you'll find is that the carrots will release a little bit of dressing when you leave this sit. Okay, and here we go. It's a pretty salad. You can use less herbs, you can use more herbs, whatever works for you on that. Okay, I want to taste. So I'm having company for dinner Friday night, and guess what they're having for dinner? Armadrote for one thing. And if there's any carrot salad left, which I doubt, I would serve it as part of my meze, but I doubt there will be. I'll probably be eating this tomorrow with some chickpeas and feta for lunch. Okay, let's taste and see. Yeah. What I like about the seasoning on this is I haven't, you know, cumin can overwhelm, garlic can overwhelm, and it's okay if that's what you want. But this tastes pretty balanced, and I like that. You also, by the way, could use hot paprika as another choice. Like a spicy, I used sweet. You could use a spicy paprika. Okay, this is done. All right. So any other questions?
I had a question for you only because you brought up that you were hosting some people for dinner. What is your what's your go-to kind of meal when you host for Shabbat, Susan?
That's a nice question. So, well, I don't eat meat, although I eat fish. So if it's not vegetarian, like if it's vegetarian, I might make like a Moroccan. Oh, like I did for you all. I made the veggie tagine.
Oh yeah.
That's a really nice dish, especially I do find in the winter more than summer. I might make the chicken with preserved lemons and olives if it's people who really need to have some sort of chicken or meat. But my go-to favorite is salmon, and these days it's a Persian spiced salmon with lots of different spices, and you serve it with lots of chopped herbs on top. And I also make it on, I don't know, did I ever give you all the recipe for that?
No, I was thinking I need to see the recipe. So no.
I will send that to you all. It's a really easy, nice salmon to make. And believe it or not, I have made it for 75 people really quickly because it's just a spice mix and a bunch of sliced up lemons. Throw it on a heat pan, bake it, you're done. You can do sides of salmon, you can do individual pieces. Really easy. So I love serving that. And I'm making that Friday night, in fact, with the almadrote.
That
And
sounds like a great meal.
I think I'm going to stick with like a little bit of a Persian theme and make a rice with a nice tadik and some herbs in it, and maybe some spring peas for the season, or some fava beans in a really nice rice with a crusty tadik. That would go really well. By the way, both the Persian salmon and the almadrote that's in the oven, I love serving those with some tzatziki on the side. They're really good. So I suggest that if you want some sort of sauce or something to go with, or it kind of feels more complete, like if you had tzatziki, the almadrote, and this salad, it's a beautiful lunch. You know, you could have guests for Passover, for Shabbat, whatever, with that meal. I just want to look and see what it's doing.
We have another question also about where, if you have a preferred brand or place that you like to get your spices from.
Well, I do buy from a number of different places, but I have to say that I have up in Maryland, in Rockville, which is north of DC, there's the most amazing Persian market called Yekta. And I am not paid by them, nothing. They don't even know I talk about them all the time. But I like going to the Persian market. Or if there's all kinds, there's Balkan market, there's, you know, I go to a Vietnamese market and another Asian market. I like buying from kind of the people whose food it is, if that makes sense. So I often source I source my spices a lot from those places. And then I also find there's a whole bunch of people, Penzies, Meet My Needs, you know, he has some spice mixes that are lovely. Yeah, I get them from all over. I'm not married to just one brand. What do you do, Shannon?
Oh, I would say I'm the same. I kind of buy from all over. I love Burlap and Barrel,
Yeah.
owned by two nice Jewish guys. I love New York Shook. I love their shawarma mix and a couple of their za'atar, a couple of their other things. But I find like Whole Foods has pretty nice, and then sometimes I'm just grabbing at the supermarket. So always a mix. But someone mentioned Kalustyan's, which is really like going to the mothership. And I mean, there's 7 different kinds of za'atar, which is so cool to see. And I can't let my husband in that store because he would spend too much money.
Yeah,
you have to go with a purpose.
What?
I said you have to go with a purpose. You can't just otherwise.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I have started making my own za'atar mix. Like a couple years ago, I did that. I started, and I really love doing it because, for one thing, I don't put any salt in it, but I can control the salt and put it in each dish as I need it. And I put a lot of sumac, and I even get dried za'atar leaves from the Indian grocer often.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but somebody brought me some back from Israel. Hang on, I'll show you my mix.
All right, someone's asking, okay, first of all, a lot of people are asking for the salmon recipe, myself included, so amazing. And somebody is asking about the other vegetarian dish that you mentioned for Shabbat, and I don't remember what it was. You said the almadrote, you said the vegetarian.
Oh, the vegetable tagine.
Yeah, I shared that. So that was it. Almadrote, vegetarian salmon, right? Oh, look at all your za'atar.
So this, and if you look, I know I use it a lot. Oh, so I use a mix. It has za'atar, it has a little marjoram, a little thyme, just because that's the fun of making your own spice mixes. You really can make it what you want. And like you said, even in a store that really knows their spices, there can be 5 or 6 different kinds. And every spice vendor in Israel has their own mix that they're very proud of. So that's mine.
I'm sorry. So Daphne had a question. And by the way, I forgot who said this up earlier, but somebody said that they want to go shopping with you and I, and that sounds so fun.
Sounds so fun.
Right. someone asks, is our best practice for zesting citrus? I find that mine often lacks taste.
Okay. Let me show you what I do. Well, first of all, I mostly only use organic produce, and you'll find that organic produce has more taste. And especially when you look at citrus. So if you're zesting, I especially suggest that you use organic if you can. Whichever, you want to scrub it very clean, because if it's not, sometimes they're waxed if they're not organic. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that happens, but wash it really, really well no matter what. I take my microplane, and most people do, let's see, I'm trying to remember the old way. They go, oh, like this, right? And it falls through, and you keep turning and looking. I don't do that. My method now is, oh, I don't want to do that. Wait, hang on. Okay, this is good. My method now takes advantage of the fact that microplanes have this amazing little holder here, right? And you can really get a lot more. I have an old microplane, it's getting dull, but you can get a lot more, and it all sits right there in the microplane. And you can take it, measure it straight out of here, put it in a jar in the refrigerator or the freezer. But if you don't have a lot of flavor, I would say that's because of the fruit you're using, the citrus you're using. So does that help?
That's a great, I mean, yeah, that's, I wouldn't necessarily have guessed that. Recommendation for a good microplane.
You know what? They're so similar. I happen to like the thin version, but there's also the short, kind of stubby, wider version. Whatever I just get them online. And I actually am due for a new one because this one is really getting dull. I can go this way. Yeah, it's getting really dull. And I don't know when a microplane gets dull, I hate not, like not using it or throwing it out. But I don't know how to sharpen a microplane. Does anybody?
No.
So, yeah. But I just online, don't spend a lot of money. Don't spend over $20 on a microplane, because they really and truly, you don't need to. Okay. Should we check? Anything else?
I'm trying to, so I also like, here, I'm sharing a microplane that I like, in the chat. I like the, oh, very nice. I like the longer ones also. I don't like the shorter ones. I find it like captures kind of like the zest inside. You can kind of like scrape it off, and it's sharper, and yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think we're all caught up. Is do we get to peek at this?
Yeah, we're gonna take a peek, and you can, what I want to show you is, look how the edges are starting to brown. It's not quite done, but I want you to know, like, the edges are starting to get brown, that nice crust, and the middle, is hot. The middle is still a little spongy, but it's firming up, and that's what you want. You want it to be fairly firm in the middle. Okay, so that's where we are. And in another 10 minutes, which is what we basically have left, it will get more firm, and this will get a nice golden, little bit of golden glow around on the top. By the way, when you're about 8 minutes out, 5 minutes even, or whatever, you can throw some extra cheese on top. If you really want a cheesy dish, just throw some extra shredded cheese on top. And
we have another question, and I think I know the answer to it, but I don't want to answer for you.
Okay.
Which is from Daphne, wants to know if the Sephardim don't have an issue with gebrox, which I can never say. Like the when you get matzah wet, when you don't, like, you're not supposed to, right? Like the Sephardim don't have that concept, right? Yeah.
No, so, that's, by the way, is this Daphne? It's in Virginia.
Daphne Steinberg.
Yep. Hi, Daphne. All right,
Daphne, you're famous.
What?
I said, Daphne, you're famous.
She has the best fig tree. Oh my gosh, it's just amazing. when you go to pick in her fig tree, you go inside the tree, essentially. It's so humongous. Okay, nice that you're on, Daphne. Yeah, Sephardim generally don't have that. You know, the whole thing with Sephardim is very interesting religiously. And certainly I'm not an expert in it, but basically, in the Sephardic community, as a community, it tends to be observant. Okay, so you'll follow kashrut, you'll have certain rules, you know, you'll follow Shabbat. As a community, as an individual, there's no judgment. So what you do as an individual in your home is really up to you. And this to the point where when I lived in New York, on Rosh Hashanah, I went to a Sephardic minyan. It was actually a Moroccan minyan in the basement of a townhouse with a mechitza and the whole thing. And I was with a friend who was from the Rhodes Sephardic community in Seattle. So we went and we had planned to go out to lunch afterward. And this is on the east side of New York. So all these people are leaving synagogue with us and walking on the street where we were going to pop into a restaurant. And I said, oh, wow, I feel really like awkward because, you know, we shouldn't be going to a restaurant. Everybody from synagogue is going to see us. And she said, yeah, half of them are going home and they'll do their lunch at home and the other half are going to be in the restaurant with us. So, and she was right. So it's really very interesting that it's not the same kind of orthodoxy that you find in the Ashkenazic world. It's different.
So a follow-up question is, could you use like an almond flour or potato starch instead of the matzah meal in this dish?
Yes, and you can also break up matzah and put broken up pieces of matzah in if you want.
But if you wanted it to be gluten-free, like what substitute would you recommend?
I would use almond. Yeah, actually I would use almond meal, not almond flour. I would use the almond meal, which is used in some recipes for quarjato, almondrote, whatever. Do use an almond meal. You can use flour or almond flour. It's another option. It's just not the one I like because I like that little bit of texture.
Right. Okay. And someone pointed out there is there is
gluten-free matzah
there
meal.
is
Yeah.
gluten-free matzah meal for sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Any sorry.
Shannon, I so admire that you're wearing all these hats right now. Thank you.
My 7-year-old really wants to come and show you a recipe book that she wrote. She wants to come show you. So I told her at the end she could show you. If there's any other questions, oh my God, if there's any other, it's okay. Nothing broke. If there's any other questions for Susan, we have just a few minutes. So now is the time for sure. Just as a reminder, the recipes for both the dishes that Susan made tonight are on the Nosher, and they were also in the emails that you got sent with the link.
And recipe for quarjato was you had for Passover a year or two ago, so it's also on the Nosher.
Yeah.
For the quarjato, yeah.
And also the vegetarian tagine is also on the Nosher. So if you're looking for any of Susan's recipes on the Nosher, you can actually click where her author name is, just click on that and all of her recipes will right below. So you can all fangirl out to all of Susan's delicious recipes.
Oh, and last year we did the spinach pie, the Mina.
Oh, yes. Yeah,
Great vegetarian Passover main. It's really good.
A million people are asking for that salmon recipe, so it's going to have to be what we feature next.
I'll send it tomorrow. I promise.
Thank you all so very, very much for joining us. Next week, we have 2 more classes coming up. On Sunday, we have Sunday evening, Sonia Sanford, another one of our wonderful contributors, will be presenting an easy vegetarian Seder meal. So all vegetarian dishes and an easy 1-bowl dessert recipe. And then next week, we'll have Lior Mashkiach from Israel, who is a very talented pastry chef, showing us a beautiful flourless lace cookie. Gorgeous. Oh, and the almond is done.
Almost done, but can you see all the kind of high spots are all golden
Yeah.
now. I don't know if it comes through.
Yeah.
It's really lovely. I'm gonna give it like a few more minutes,
Okay.
but I wanted you all to see.
Oh, the dates for the classes. The Sonia's vegetarian Seder class will be Sunday, the 26th, and stop. And Lior's class, I believe, is the 20. Hold on, I have to check my calendar, but also probably is in the email that you got. Okay, and Lior's class is on the 28th. If you are a member of the table, which is the Nosher's new membership, a supportive community, we'll be doing an exclusive Q&A this Thursday with myself and some other staff members to menu plan or do any Q&A. So if you want to support the Nosher, please join us at the table, and then you can have some more QT with me. All right, Billy, you want to show Susan your book? You can go ahead and show Susan your book. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and we can't wait to see you next time. And as always, reach out to us, email hello@thenosher.com.
Thank you all so much, really, and have Pesach Alegre, as we say, a happy Passover for everyone.
I love that.